from the rapture supposed to happen last summer to the apocalypse of this past December. Finished in our minds usually leads to the end result, or the answer to our problems. However, many times the answer is given before our problems even start. It reminds me of the story about a Japanese soldier. He was sent to the Philippine Islands toward the end of World War II, and was given orders to be a pain in the side of U.S. troops, not to surrender under any circumstances. Now, when the war ended, he received the news, but concluded it was a trick of the Allies to get him to surrender. He received cards from friends and family telling him to come home, but still he wouldn't buy it. And it wasn't until 1972, 30 years later, that he finally left when his commanding officer came. Now, this is how we are at times. We continue to fight, only to find the war was over before we began our fighting. Now, the Bible has a story like this. Genesis 22 is the story of Abraham and Isaac. God told Abraham to go up to a mountain and sacrifice his son. After 3 days, Abraham gathers some wood and has Isaac carry it the rest of the way. Halfway up the mountain, Isaac asks his father where the lamb to sacrifice is. Abraham replies, God will provide a lamb. Now when they reach the top, Isaac is bound to an altar, and Abraham raises his knife. The Lord stops him there. He says to him, do not do anything to it. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son. At that moment, Abraham looks over and sees a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. The sacrifice is provided. Now the answer may have seemed to come in verse 13 when they find the ram. However, the answer came 5 chapters earlier. Genesis 17, verse 19. It says, then God said, yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. The promise was made here that Isaac would be the father of many nations, and that God had made a covenant with him. It was finished before it began. Now, many times we find ourselves in situations similar to these faced by Abraham and Isaac. For example, the journey to our destination may be extremely difficult. Isaac was not only trying to scale a mountain, but he was forced to carry all the wood for the fire as well. Are you like him? Let's say you're struggling financially. You're just barely making it as it is. Just to realize your car broke down. Now you got to pay for the repairs as well. However, we have to remember God has established a covenant with us through Jesus Christ. And our battles are finished before they begin. Isaac faced another problem. Halfway up the mountain, he realizes there's no lamb to sacrifice. And I'm sure he feels he's done all this work for nothing. Are you like Isaac? Let's say you are like the super Christian. You are the kindest person, the most righteous person. And then all of a sudden your loved one becomes sick. You may look at God and say, God, I spent my whole life for you. How could you allow this? But we have to remember there is a promise of God over our life. And he had an answer before we reached this point. It was finished before it began. Maybe you're like Abraham. Abraham is holding a knife over the son he loves. He knows God has a promise, but he can't see any evidence of it. You like him? You're facing a hopeless situation, and you say, God, you promised to always take care of me. Where are you? But again, we have to remember there is a promise of God over us. He had an answer before we got here. It was finished before it began. Now, me and my family faced a situation similar to this a couple years ago. When my dad was put in hospital from a car wreck, me and my mom were constantly worried. It seemed every day we would go to the mailbox just to find a stack of bills. I mean, they kept coming and coming over and over until our table couldn't contain them. Then one day we received a particularly large bill with a cost of about $70,000. This was awful. I mean, there was no way we were going to be able to pay this off. Then one day we got a call from the hospital. They told us they had completely wiped away the debt. We had nothing to pay for. I mean, it seemed at a moment's notice all our prayers had been answered. However, upon further knowledge, we realized that's quite the contrary. Weeks before we had even received the bill, the hospital had decided to pay off its part after insurance paid what it could. Our problems had literally been finished before we realized they started. Now, as we view the story of Abraham and Isaac today, my question to you is, in your situation, do you feel like you've reached the end? If so, remember there is a covenant we have with God through Jesus Christ. He has an answer before we even realized we had a problem. It was finished before it began.